The subject of today's episode will be the murders that Jesse almost definitely committed, his confession and then recant of said confession, his trial, insanity defense, the fight to hang him or to not hang him, his time in prison, and his many escape attempts, and why I refuse to say that he was a serial killer, even though many will probably disagree with me. All that and more on our second and final episode of Jesse H. Pomeroy. I'm Kevin Young.
And I'm Dan, the Bostonian butt-biter Horrigan.
I don't think that's something you want to be known as. And this is torture.
No, I'm not Bostonian to begin with, so that's already...
But are you a butt biter?
No. Only if you ask me nicely.
Yeah, I've been known to bite an ass, but only my wife, and only when she wants it. Gently. She bites mine, and I yell at her because I don't want her to. So I hope everybody enjoyed the first part of this series. If you were a Patreon member, you would have listened to it much sooner than if you weren't a Patreon member, if that type of shit matters to you. If it does, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/torturepod for early episodes, video episodes, a bunch of other cool shit, exclusive merch, all that stuff. Yeah. Just, go take a look.
Special swag.
Right now we got the one, our exclusive merch is the Burger King shirt, which I love.
I think it's brilliant. It's the one that I should have ordered. I haven't.
That's the one that if I'm going to order that one and probably the Gilda Ray one, just because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
And then a torture hat.
They're all funny.
Yeah, but...
Well, I have all my stuff on the way, so next time people see me, I will be not promoting Under Armour anymore. It'll be shameless self-plugging. I'm wearing the hat, wearing the t-shirt.
Yeah, nothing wrong with
wearing the hoodie.
Plug. If there's other podcasts out there that want to send us merch, I'd be more than willing to wear other podcast merch on here to plug.
As long as I like the podcast.
Yeah, as long as we if you're
we ain't cheap.
Yeah, if you're a fucking asshat that talks stupid shit, then don't send me your stuff. But we got a lot of friends in the true crime and paranormal podcast community, and if any of them out there are listening and want to send us a sticker or a hat or something, be more than happy to wear it or put the sticker up.
And I'd be more than happy to return something.
Yeah. Anyway, so when we last left, Jesse had just gotten out of the Reformation House at Westboro to the unsuspecting public because nobody thought it would be a good idea to tell everyone that a serial torturer of young boys was back loose on the streets.
Why would you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just semantics, really. I mean, who cares? He's going to get a young boy and try to bite his penis off and bite a part of his ass cheek off. But it's not a big deal.
Num, 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 num.
So just 6 weeks after Jesse gets out on March 18th, around 8 in the morning, Jesse was opening up the dress shop and newsstand. He was talking with another boy that did some work for his family named Rudolph Kaur. Now, that is when 10-year-old Katie Curran walked into the dress shop looking for a notebook. Now, you might be thinking, oh, it's a girl, she's safe, which would be a fairly reasonable thing to think. Anyway, this was the second store she had been to that.
I was going to say, we kind of already got to grasp the fact that he doesn't like his victims to have penises.
Yeah.
So
if they have them, he tries to remove them. It's like, you don't need that anymore.
Not there already. That's half the job done.
Yeah. Unless he just likes the work, maybe he just likes the work.
He's a grafter. Puts in that honest couple of hours.
That's right. Now, this was the second store young Katie had been to that morning to find a new notebook for a brand new class that she was excited to get to. And she was expected home around 8:30 so she could take her little sister to school with her. Jesse told Rudolph to run to the butcher and get some scraps for the day. He saw Katie walk in. He's like, "Hey, Rudolph, why don't you run down to the butcher and get some scraps for the dog? I'll handle this." Foreshadowing. Then, after Rudolph was gone, Jesse told her that he thought they had a notebook down in the cellar. Actually, he said they had one downstairs. He makes this distinction later, which we will get to. But anyway, he told her that the notebook had an ink spot on the cover, so he would sell it to her for 3 cents instead of 5. And she needed to go down with him to find it. She started down the stairs first, but by the time she had made it into the cellar and realized there was no, Dan's just shaking his head, there was no store, it was too late. Jesse would later confess, quote, "I followed her, put my arm around her neck and my hand over her mouth, and with my knife, cut her throat. I then dragged her to behind the water closet, laying her head furthest up on the place, and put some stones and some ash on the body." Now, that's what he says he did, but that's not the end of what he did. He then, after he slit her throat, which, by the by, he slit her throat so deep that the head was almost completely severed from the body.
Turned into a Pez dispenser.
Pretty much. And he does this with like a pen knife. So, I mean, yeah. In fact, when they find the body, they actually find it months later. The head had completely fallen off.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and there's a discrepancy to whether it fell off because of how deep he sliced it or whether it fell off because of the people who found it. Regardless, the head was removed from the body. He then sliced up the front of her blouse and her skirt and viciously attacked her torso and genitals with his knife. He then washed his hand in the water closet and went back to work like nothing had happened. As you do.
As one does.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to kill her and then go upstairs and be like bragging about it. You got to go upstairs and act like nothing happened.
Yeah.
So when Katie never
Par for a course for the lunatic.
So when Katie never returned, he's I keep saying he's not a serial killer. He is portraying all the marks of a serial killer, all the prerequisites and all the things that you would do as a serial killer. He's showing all those. So that's not my issue with it, just so you know. He's well on his way. Anyway, when Katie never returns, her mother understandably got worried. She had sent her to Tobin's General Store, so she went and asked the owner, who told her that she had been in there that morning, but he didn't have any notebooks that she liked, so he sent her to Mrs. Pomeroy's. Why you would send her to a dress shop for a notebook, I still don't quite understand.
Probably sold tons of different things. It's like, there was a shop here where it's, I don't know if it's an Irish country thing though, but what it used to be was like what we would call like a newsagent's store. So it's just like a little mini general store type thing where you can buy loads of little odds and ends. But in it there used to be like a food takeaway place, like they did like kebabs and chips and things like that. But then you could also get the documents to do up your will. or back to school stuff, which were both, funnily enough, on the same shelf. So
going back to school,
it might be like that. Yeah, or both.
Plan on dying. Well, that would actually come handy here, because if you're going to school here in America, you might actually plan on dying at the same time. So it does make sense to have both of those things.
That's very true.
I mean, yeah, I guess. But the whole purpose of it was a dress shop. Maybe the newsstand would have that stuff, would sell that type of stuff. I don't know. But it seemed like out of all the places you could send her to get a notebook, the dress shop owned by the woman
doesn't seem like one
whose son tortures people, not the first one on my list.
But he's locked up, though.
Again, he does the camera thing, and it's so creepy. Just
had to give the Patreon people something.
Anyway, the thing is, Mrs. Curran knew that Jesse was out, so she went straight to the police, who told her, quote, "Well, I understand he was completely rehabilitated in reform school. Besides, he only hurts little boys. He never attacked a girl."
Never had the opportunity to.
I mean, again, this police station is very problematic. There's a lot of things going on there that shouldn't be. These people are... they told her to go home. Katie was probably, she's probably just lost. So, your problem. Well, if she's lost, get off your ass and help find her. But she's probably just lost. You'll be fine. But when the word got around town that Katie had gone missing, little Rudolph went to the Curran home and told the mother, Mary, that he had seen Katie in the Pomeroy store with Jesse before she went missing. So, of course, Mary returned to the police station. So the police begrudgingly went to the store to make a quick search, and they found nothing. They searched the store, so they said, all over, found nothing.
Of course they didn't.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we'll get into a little bit near the end of the episode. Jesse brings up the fact that there was no blood and all this stuff, which nobody ever sees any blood, which is weird because if you slash a little girl's throat so deep that her head almost falls off, there might be a trickle somewhere. But apparently...
just a little bit.
Yeah,
it's not like there's going to be much,
But I guess if you got over there and you wiped it up real quick... they're not coming in with luminol and black lights in the 1870s to look for blood. If it's mopped up, you're not going to see it. Then you don't see it. But
that's true. Yeah. Nobody ever cleans up after themselves.
No, it's like,
it's that if you can't see it.
Yeah, it's that John Mulaney bit where they're looking for Jack the Ripper. He's like, "Captain, there's blood everywhere." Captain looks at it and goes, gross. Clean that up. They didn't think about that stuff back then. Eventually, a so-called credible witness, they don't ever say who this credible witness is, but apparently he's a credible witness, came forward and said that they saw Katie being lured into a wagon. So the police closed the investigation, concluding that the girl had just been kidnapped. Because apparently that's where investigations end in the 1870s. Boston.
She's gone.
Again, Gil, we bring up Gil de Rais again. Same. She's just kidnapped. It's fine. Go about your business. I mean, come on, for fuck's sake. The little girl's kid. Go look for her. Come on, go look for her. But in any sense, Jesse was in the clear for now, which, like we talked about with Robert Hansen.
I was going to say,
Once you do something and you get away with it, it kind of gives you this almost permission to keep doing it because, didn't get caught last time. I probably won't get caught next time.
Yeah. Oh, crazy Bob.
Oh, crazy Bob.
Do whatever the hell he wants. We have
the Hanson brothers.
Old Jesse.
Yep. So Jesse just went back to his old ways. He tried several times to lure young boys to their doom, but most knew of his reputation and wouldn't take the bait. Then, in April 1874, he came across 5-year-old Harry Field. Now, he asked Harry if he knew where Vernon Street was and if he could take him there for 5 cents. Harry agreed, and they took hands. But when they got to Vernon Street, Harry asked for his 5 cents. Jesus might as well have just been Jesus. Jesus, where the fuck did that come from? You know what it is? I have Jesse pulled, and I saw the U and pulled, and I saw Jesus, and I put the two together, and I saw Jesse, I made Jesus. Fucking idiot.
Jesse Christ.
Jesse pulled him into a doorway and held a broomstick up to him and told him to keep his mouth shut. Jesse then took him by the hand through a maze of streets to find a place where they could be alone. Fortunately for Harry, they ran into an old acquaintance of Jesse's who knew of his crimes, and the two began to argue. He's like, what the fuck are you doing with the 5-year-old? Oh,
Yeah.
Nothing. Showing me, just taking him around
That
town.
broom handle.
It's like, come on. But they began to argue, and Harry took the opportunity, the smart little kid he is, to rip his hand out of Jesse's and run away all the way home, pretty much saving his life, because what you're going to find out here in a second is that Jesse had murder on his mind again. And it didn't take long. So a few days or so later, on the 22nd of April, Jesse came across 4-year-old Horace Millen. And for some reason, the age of it that is the gut punch. Consequently, Horace Millen lived right across the street from the Curran family. So this is all staying in, it's weird. It's all staying in the same little neighborhood.
Right.
So young Horace was dressed nicely, dress shirt, slacks, nice shoes, black velvet hat with a golden tassel, which he was very proud of.
Awesome.
Yeah, just kid in the 1870s, just walking around in dress clothes. He had a nice big breakfast that morning, but he was still hungry, so he asked his mom for a few cents so he could walk himself down to the bakery and get some cake. And again,
I was going to say, it turns out he wasn't a 4-year-old. He was just a very short person who was a pimp.
It was orphan. He is orphan. He's 30 and he's going to try to seduce your mother.
Backhands Jesse straight away.
Give me my money. Give me my money. Pistol whips him. And of course, he wants a piece of cake. Mom's thinking, okay, why not? Here, have some change. Now, some say he went.
Ma, can I have a cookie?
Yeah, he says that he went to the bakery and got a slice of cake. Some people say he got a cupcake. Whatever. It doesn't matter. He got some pastry.
It does. What kind of cake? Tell me what kind of cake.
This is the most
important
thing.
The suspense. God, the suspense.
So he took off from home, headed to the bakery, and that's when him and Jesse ran into one another. They talked for a minute, and Jesse walked with him to the bakery where Horace, sweet little guy, bought his cake and shared it with Jesse.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Jesse suggested that the two of them take a walk to the harbor. Horace agreed and grabbed Jesse's hand to walk off. It's just this is, if you take who Jesse is out of it, and it's just two kids holding hand, walking to the harbor, eating some cake. It's the sweetest fucking thing in the goddamn world, and it doesn't stay that way.
Or susceptible little fuckers.
Oh fuck! A number of witnesses saw the two boys set off towards the bay. One woman recalled a look of excitement on the other boy's face that was much too emotional for someone who was just taking a walk to a bakery. The second witness,
because I guess that's Horace. So he was so excited about cake.
The second witness, out wandering near some remote railroad tracks in the marshy area south of the city, remembered seeing what looked like two brothers walking by, which would be a pretty good assumption to make. You just see two boys walking, one of them significantly older than the other. You figure, it's just two brothers out walking, having a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Now, this is about 40 minutes after Jesse and Horace left the bakery. So Jesse takes Horace on quite the excursion.
So all these witnesses, and not one thing on record as to what type of cake it was.
No. Again, some people say it was a slice of cake. Other people say it was a cupcake. But no, nothing on the flavor. Nothing on the icing. If there's any
Pops back then really didn't do their job, did they?
If there was anything. And you would think the cops would be worried about what type of cake it was. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Was it like chocolate with strawberry? Oh, yeah. But no, nothing like that. This is about 40 minutes after. So Jesse takes Horace on quite the hike, which is, that's a lot for a 4-year-old. It was and the witness who saw them out by the marsh thought it was unusual to see children out that far alone. But the older boy looked from afar to be responsible. I don't know how you could tell. So the witness, you just look at him from way far away. What's going on over there?
Yeah, he looks pretty responsible.
Good, that little shouldn't be out this far. That older one, he looks responsible. It's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. He looked responsible from half a mile away.
That's what, yeah, because you couldn't see the knife in his pocket. You see it from half a mile away.
You could.
That's the problem.
You couldn't see his fucking James Bond villain eye glaring in the sun. So, I mean, but the witness said nothing. Again, people, if you see something odd, say something to somebody. I mean, even if you're wrong, at least you could be saving a kid's life. Unless you're just doing it because they're a minority, then fuck off. A boy just a little older than Jesse, who had been digging for clams, spoke to the pair as they crossed a ditch in the area of the marshland known as the cow pasture. He remembered thinking that the little boy was a little too well dressed to be wandering in the mud, but again, doesn't say anything to anyone. Finally, about 20 minutes later, so now we're at over an hour, these two have been walking with one another. The last person besides Jesse Pomeroy to see Horace Millen alive watched the two boys from a distance. He was a beachcomber, just looking for treasure. Noticed that the older boy kept looking over his shoulder as if he was being pursued. But the man saw that no one was following the pair, and he shrugged and went back to scouring the shoreline anyway.
He was just being responsible. That's all that was.
Oh, he looks like a responsible young lad checking to see if
checking over his shoulder.
He must be looking
dodgy at all.
He must be looking for make sure the FBI is not following him. That's nothing to worry. He's looking out for James Bond. The old 007 gonna come up in his Aston Martin. So eventually the two got alone. He told Horace that they should sit and rest for a while, which, again, Horace, only 4 years old, his little legs were probably burning by then, so he was more than happy to have a good sit down. And the second Horace sat down, Jesse pulled out the same knife he used to kill Katie Curran, and in a moment of overflowing bloodlust, he grabbed Horace and slashed the boy's throat. Despite the amount of blood, Horace was still alive. So Jesse lost his shit at the fact that he hadn't been able to kill him with just one blow. He wanted to just be done and over with, like he had with Katie. But Horace lived. So he just started stabbing the shit out of the 4-year-old. Now, we know Horace was still alive at this time because his hands and lower arms are covered in defensive wounds.
Tough little guy.
Yeah. Eventually...
Go on, Horace.
Eventually, Jesse sliced through Horace's windpipe, killing the boy. Obviously, he would have died anyway, but this was kind of the last killing blow. But that wasn't the end of it, because Jesse continued to stab and slash at the boy. He stabbed through his right eyelid into the eye itself, stabbed him in the chest 18 times, and, par for the course, attempted to castrate him, mutilating his scrotum in the process. Even when he's dead, he couldn't cut it all the way off. I don't know what the fuck. You can cut a girl's head almost all the way up, but you can't cut off a 4-year-old's penis? But what the fuck is... I mean, I don't know.
God only knows.
Yeah. So they were...
He's just... I don't know.
He had something poignant to say, and then he's like, no, never mind, fuck it. There were deep gouges in the sand from Horace's kicking legs, and his fists were clenched so tight in pain that his fingernails were embedded in his own palms, pointing towards the excruciating torment the child was in before he finally died. So I guess I should have given another trigger warning before we started this episode, but if you listened to the last episode, hopefully you knew what you were in for.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see any reason somebody would jump in on part 2 randomly like that. So it's kind of like starting Star Wars and the Return of the Jedi. It's like, hey, let's start here.
I mean, when you want to think about it, technically, you start Star Wars on episode 4.
Don't you try and get bogged down in semantics here. Like, no, that's... No!
Just technically. Obviously, that's where you start, but you technically jump in on episode 4.
Yeah.
When it comes to these types of podcasts, you really need to start from the beginning because you don't know what the fuck's happening.
Yeah, as in Torture, episode 1, and then catch up to here.
Yeah. Listen to all 20, what we go, it was like 27, 28 of them. Listen to all of them first before you get to this one. You don't know what you're missing. We could have little Easter eggs hidden all throughout the episodes.
Yeah.
A lot of inside jokes you wouldn't know about.
Lots of inside jokes. Like the one about the thing I'm trying to think of, but I can't remember now. So
The thing with the thing, and you'll never know because
remember that time you said that
you
thing,
weren't
and
there.
I was all like,
yeah, and I chuckled. Yeah, remember that?
yeah.
Remember that thing?
God, what episode was that in?
Even though
You'll have to find it.
even though we keep bringing up like Billy Bolognese and Chicken Cacciatore, and that episode hasn't even come out yet, so nobody has any idea what we're talking about.
That's how you future-proof in jokes right there.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to know what we're talking about, you got to listen to the future, people.
That's right.
The future is where it's at.
Stay tuned for more. So young Horace's body was found around 3 or 4 hours later by 2 brothers playing on the beach. Can you imagine? Just a young kid.
No, I couldn't.
Oh my God. Everyone immediately thought there could only be one suspect. The boy torturer, Jesse Pomeroy. Problem was, most people, including the authorities, were under the assumption that Jesse was still locked away. Many of the parents thought that Jesse was locked up, so they had no real fear of letting their boys run free. They figured they were relatively safe. You have to think, if the parents in the community knew he was out and about, there wouldn't be a boy younger than 16 out by themselves.
Yeah. Place to be locked down.
Yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, you probably need to lock up the girls too because he, just killed one of them. But still,
But they didn't know she was kidnapped.
Yeah. So who cares? She was either lost
Credible
or kidnapped.
witness who did not look like Jesse. I'd say saw her getting into a wagon.
It's just Jesse with a fake mustache. Like, oh, she got in that wagon. He's holding his finger up to his lip as a mustache. Oh, yeah, she got in that wagon. She was kidnapped. Don't worry about it. Oh, fucking hell. But once the authorities found out that Jesse was home, they quickly went to his house and took him in for questioning. Back to an interrogation, police berated him with questions for hours. Where was he? What was he doing? And for many of those questions, he didn't have a real answer. He's like, I opened up the store in the morning, and I worked there for a while, and then I just took a quick stroll around town, and I came home. They're like, well, where'd you go? I went over here, and I went over there. Are they doing construction over on that part of town? I don't know. Were they having a parade over here? Wasn't paying attention. I mean, just asking him simple questions. Like, you went out, you explored the city. Tell us what you found. Was any of this going on? And he couldn't give them any answers to any of it.
Yeah.
He changes the story a few times through it, but he's never able to give them definitive answers for any of their questions. So obviously pointing towards, lying.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they asked him about all the scratches he had on his face and neck that he got from Horace, defending himself, he said, quote, shaving. As 13-year-olds do. All the shaving that they're doing on their neck and face.
It's like, yeah, what, did you shave yourself with a rake?
It's like, you got them on your forehead and you got them on the back of your neck. Oh, yeah, I'm hairy. I get it. I was just shaving. My dad taught me you shave the entire face.
Yeah.
Before he was chased out of the house by my mother with a kitchen knife, he said, hey, Jesse, make sure when you shave, you do your entire face.
It's like, Jesse, you seem to have a piece of a fingernail embedded in the side of your head there. Where did that come from? Oh, that's how I shave.
That's how I shave. We can't afford razors, so I just scratch myself until all the hair comes off. Now, when they got a hold of his knife, they noticed that it had dried blood on the handle. That's because he cut himself shaving with it.
Of course, yeah.
And then when they made a plaster mold of the larger footprint in the mud at the murder scene, it just so happened to be an exact match for Jesse's boots. All the little nicks and cuts and everything that were in Jesse's boots matched perfectly. When Jesse removed his shirt, they found a reddish-brown thumbprint on his undershirt about the size of a 4-year-old's. He's like, oh, that's my thumb. I have baby thumbs, so that was my thumb.
Yeah.
You know? So with all this evidence proving that Jesse was at least present at the murder scene, they properly put him under arrest. And all Jesse said was, quote, "You can't prove anything.
You'll never catch me, see? Yeah.
You can't prove anything." I feel less like JFK and more like Mayor Quimby.
Yeah.
Oh. Ironically, the captain that put Jesse under arrest was the same captain that vouched for him to get out of Reformation House, and the same captain that told Mary Curran that Jesse had nothing to do with Katie's death. So, you know. Oh, we caught him, but you're the reason he was out in the first place. Yeah, but we caught him. And if you would have caught him after this little girl died, he would have never committed this murder. You live and you learn. Pretty much. You know,
great police work.
Yep. You find in so many of these fucking stories that the police are just bumbling idiots. It's
Well, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have much of a podcast, would we?
That's true. There would be no true crime podcast if policemen did their jobs. Zero. So they decided that maybe seeing the results of his actions would help coax a confession. So they took him to the morgue to look at Horace's bloody corpse. That's when he broke. Quote, "I am sorry. I did it. Please don't tell my mother."
All they saw was, when they saw him, was, that's how they knew. Straight away.
For those of you who aren't watching, Dan made an erection symbol with his finger.
Yeah. As soon as he walked in, he saw the corpse. Ooh la la.
I'm sorry, I did it. Don't tell my mom. Can you give me like 5 minutes alone?
Yeah. He's just standing there with his hands up. Just the old belt tuck.
Yeah. It didn't take any time at all for the press to run with the story. With this particular suspect and a confession, there was no innocent until proven guilty. The Boston Globe would write, quote, "The boy Pomeroy seems to be a moral monstrosity. He had no provocation and no rational motive for his atrocious conduct. He did not know the little lad Millen at all, but enticed him away and cut and hacked him to death with a penknife merely for sport. He would be arraigned for the murder on May 1st and indicted by a grand jury about a month later." So, there wasn't much the community could do about Jesse. He was already in jail. He was already looking as though he would hang for what he did, because the 1870s, you're found guilty of first-degree murder, that is your sentence, to be hanged. It's no life in prison. There's no, making deals. You're guilty, you hang. That's about it.
Life for life.
Exactly. But what the community could do was ruin the lives of Ruth and Charles, who, if you recall, have a very successful business there. An almost unanimous boycott of the shop was looking to put the Pomeroys out of business. And the only people that came in were those curious to see where the boy Fiend worked. This kind of feeds into the whole, it's not true crime now, it's true crime always. People have always been obsessed with this type of shit. So if you're somebody who loves true crime, there's nothing, it's been going on for literally centuries. People just love true crime.
The rubbernecking kind of
exactly.
thing, yeah.
Because it didn't happen to them.
Cat.
Oh, a cat. Which one?
Yeah, Smudge.
Smudge?
Yeah.
The sasshole. Keep it safe.
She decided to open the door. Oh, no, I had to close the door over because somebody's having a shower. I'm out of gears.
Go
Give me a
ahead.
second. Cat opened the door. Anyway, sorry about that.
In early June 1874, they ended up shutting down the store. Enter a man by the name of James Nash. Now, Nash ran a grocery store just a few doors down from the building the Pomeroys had been renting for their business. And he was doing very well. So well that he needed to expand. So he went ahead and bought the building that the Pomeroys were renting out and started a renovation. The first place he decided to renovate. Any idea?
The downstairs basement.
The cellar. Very good. The downstairs. The last week of June, 2 workers looking to get started on some excavation went down the stairs into the dark, dank, and by all accounts, creepy basement and were overtaken by a putrid smell. There is a lot of question on this body has been down there for a while, decomposing. How can nobody smell it? This was one of those cellars that always had weird smells coming, had stagnant water in there. It was kind of like a dirt floor, so there was a lot of weird smells that came up from it. Adults were even kind of weary about going down in there because it was creepy as shit. Had huge rats. I mean, when you get by the waterways, the rats are almost always bigger. It had huge rats running around in there, getting in fights with cats and shit. It was a nasty place to go down into. So a few weird smells coming up from it wasn't really something to be concerned with. But they went downstairs and they got just punched in the face by this putrid scent of pretty much just decay. So they left and returned with Nash, and they went looking through the basement with some lamps. They were unable to find anything, so they went and talked to the previous owner of the building, who had said he had also noticed a smell of decay coming from the basement, but he figured it was just a rat or cat or something got trapped and died somewhere. So, I've smelled dead rat and dead cat and dead squirrel. I can't imagine the smell is as bad as it is with a human body.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a great smell, but I would think a human body would probably be a lot worse, even a 10-year-old girl. But what do I know?
Yeah, I can well imagine. Yeah, well.
Anybody out there has ever smelled a dead body sitting in, a cellar for God knows how long? Let us know how it smelled, I guess. I don't know.
Next week on Torture.
So they went along with their work. They tore down walls, which let in fresh air, and they churned up the earth underneath with digging, which is bringing up even more odd smells. So the thought of the odor of decay quickly left their minds. Until July 18th, when again, and this is like the very beginning of summer, so it's getting bad.
Yeah.
When they started working on the ash pile side of the cellar and accidentally knocked some of it down. They were one of the workers was breaking part of the wall over there and missed the wall and actually hit the ash heap, and he heard something snap. A lot of people think that that's when her head left her body, is when he hit it with the pickaxe. Yeah, poor thing. But then he swings again, hits a piece of the wall crumbles, comes down on the ash pile, and removes a bunch of it. So when that happens, the skeletal remains of a small human forearm with blackened flesh was exposed. And you have to imagine that they jump back screaming bloody fucking murder.
Yeah, damn straight, yeah.
The police were called, and they cleaned off the rest of the body, and they had found young Katie Curran. They knew it was her by the clothes she had on. She had on very specific. She had on, white blouse and a green and yellowish checkerboard type skirt. So they knew who it was. Her head fallen off of her neck, her clothes cut up the front, and her genitals almost completely dissected from her body. That's how fucking crazy he went with that knife when he was just going at her. So obviously Ruth and Charles were taken in for questioning. Then they went and talked to Jesse. They told him that they found her body covered up in the cellar and asked him if he knew anything about it. And he said, quote, "No, I don't." Nope. So
you were reported to have been the last person to be seen with her alive. It's in the basement of your occupation in which you were reported to have last been seen with her alive. But you have nothing to say. It's like, nah, sure, do you not remember that guy, that credible witness that looks nothing like me with a mustache? Told you. She was kidnapped. Oh, Mr. Bonneville, great to see you again. Yes.
So not long after this, girls from all over South Boston came to tell the police about how they were almost victims of Jesse Pomeroy. 2 girls said that he asked them to go buy some oranges for him and gave them money. When they returned, he was closing the curtains in the shop and waiting for them to come in. They just tossed the oranges in and ran away. Smart. Another girl came forward, said that Jesse asked her to come into the store and run an errand. She turned and ran down the street, and he chased after her, but she was able to get home before he could reach her. There's no proof that any of this actually happened. You know, people come up with shit. But it isn't outside the realm of possibility that Jesse got the taste of killing young girls, and he wanted to satiate that appetite again. I'm not saying that it did happen, but I'm not saying it's outside the possibility that it didn't happen.
Well, like I said, he might have realised it was a little bit less work with the old choppy, hacky.
Yeah.
For what he wanted.
Katie was a lot easier to kill than Horace was. She didn't put up a fight. So maybe he's thinking, oh, girls are easier to take care of. Maybe I should, switch teams, I guess. I don't know what the fuck he's thinking.
Yeah.
Anyway, a couple days after they first talked to Jesse, they went and talked to him again. Now, with some time to think, what he claimed was to protect his mother and brother, he finally confessed. He said in his autobiography, which he writes in prison at the age of 16. Yeah, and it's actually, everybody says he wrote it. There was no ghostwriter. Nobody helped him with it. He wrote the whole thing. It's actually pretty well written. You can tell it's written. It's not written by a professional writer or somebody who knows a lot about the legal process, but it's actually pretty well written. I'll give him that. He writes in his autobiography that he thought of the proverb, one may as well be hanged for stealing a sheep as for stealing a lamb. And he thought that if he's going to hang for the death of Horace Millen, he might as well hang for the death of Katie Curran.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's this autobiography again. It's quite the piece of work. It's not very long if you want to go read it or listen to it. The majority of it is about what the prosecution gets wrong and how he was innocent of, particularly the Curran murder. And he actually brings up some good points, like the absence of blood in the cellar and how the body was decaying for months and no one could smell it. He brings forth some good points. But then, by the end of the book, he says, it is for these reasons that I think I did not do these crimes. But if I did, it's because I'm insane. It's like, dude, what the fuck, man? Because through a lot of it, I was listening to it, I was like, he brings up some good points. There should have been blood literally everywhere. And you should have been able to smell a decaying body in, May, June, and July. But then he's like, I don't think I did it. But if I did, it's just because I'm insane. You fucking idiot. Who are you, O.J. Simpson? I didn't do it, but I'm going to write a book called If I Did. What the fuck is wrong with you? But, whatever. So, when asked why he killed her, at first he said he didn't know. He just felt like he had to do it, which is a common theme that the defense will rely on quite a bit later. But he finally gave the explanation that, quote, I wanted to see how she would act. Like, well, she'd die. That's what when you cut her throat.
To see how she, yeah.
I
wanted to see what she'd do.
She fell down.
That's
lazy. What did you want her to do? Put on a fucking puppet show? What the fuck?
I was going to say it's like that bit in The Simpsons with Mr. Burns, and he goes up to the cow and I'll have that one. He killed it. Didn't put up much of a fight, did he? I'll have that one.
Exactly.
I'll have a glass of milk.
Dan, I have a confession to make. I have
crabs.
Beard dandruff. So close.
So much worse.
I know. Look away, I'm hideous. All seriousness. All serious.
All serious.
All serious. Me serious now. No funny. No more. Frankenstein. No fire. Bad. Ah. In all seriousness, many of us men with facial hair have some sort of dry skin under their face fur. I have particularly dry skin, especially on my face, around my nose, my eyes, ears. That beard and mustache, they draw a ton of moisture from your skin in order to stay healthy, leaving the skin underneath sometimes dry, itchy, red, flaky, leading to the beard dandruff. And I struggled with it for quite a while. Struggled to, rein it in. Then I found thebeardstruggle.com. They use all natural products, never tested on animals, that your face, body, and beard will love.
They have day oils to protect your beard from UV rays and dirt and grime, and it keeps your skin from drying out. All the troubles the day can bring. And they have night oils to help moisturize and rejuvenate your skin and beard while you sleep. Not to mention, as of right now, they have 8 different fragrances. According to this.
That's what they tell me. That's what they tell me.
Do you want to know what they are?
I do. I want you to.
Ready?
I want you to pronounce them perfectly.
Okay. Here we go. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
From Alfheim's Forest, which has a scent of woodsy, leather and spices, to Hionir's Home,
Close enough.
scents of greenery, amber and musk, to Valhalla's Gates, with essences of citrus, amber, sandalwood and vanilla.
And right now I'm using the Aesir's Triumph, which I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, which has the scent of sweet incense, tobacco, whiskey, and cinnamon. And my wife absolutely loves it. Of course, I haven't gotten one from them that she hasn't loved. So, and if you can't choose, just get the sample pack, which comes with 6 of their mainstay scents and 5 milliliter bottles of nighttime elixir, so you can decide what is best for you. But they have so much more than just oils: balms, wax, shampoo, conditioner, butters, cologne, natural deodorant, skincare products, heated beard straighteners, combs, brushes, shaving kits, growth kits, merch. List goes on and on and on. No matter what kind, length, or style of facial hair you have, the Beard Struggle has the products you need.
You get a free gift for purchases over $50, and you get another free gift for purchases over $100, and all orders over $65 US get free shipping. You have a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. And be sure to use our exclusive coupon code TORTURE19 at checkout to get 19% off your entire order. That's TORTURE 19 at checkout for 19% off your entire order.
Torture19 at checkout, or click on the link in the show notes. TheBeardStruggle.com. Do what's right for your beard. Do what's right for your face. So the captain would read the confession to the press after Jesse made a few small changes to his story. So earlier, when I had said that he had said that they went downstairs to the cellar, well, in the confession, it originally said that he told her there was a notebook in the cellar, and that she should go down with him and get it. But then he changed that to say that they had one downstairs, because he said that if he had used the word cellar, there's no way she would have gone with him. So points, again, this points to not being crazy, but to being cunning and exacting. An insane person isn't going to think about doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he clearly had all his faculties.
Exactly.
In that way, yeah. So
when they asked him what they should do to him for his crimes, he said that I can go to prison for 5 or 6 years and then send him out to sea for 2 or 3 years, with the Navy. By the time he comes back, he'd be a fully grown man and able to suppress the urges that he had.
Nope.
It's like that discussion we had many episodes before about it sounds like going to solitary confinement wouldn't be too bad as long as they gave me my phone and I got to, and all that shit.
And it wasn't solitary.
It's just people think, well, if you just throw me in prison for 5 or 6 years and send me off to sea, I'm good after that. Nothing to worry about. He actually asks several times through his imprisonment to just let me go and send me off to sea. Let me join the Navy, send me off to sea. I'll be fine. Everything will be good. He just wanted to get onto a boat with a bunch of other men for some reason. I don't know if maybe he was secretly homosexual and he was fighting those urges, and that maybe that's why he killed the younger boys. Or
it's easier to dispose of bodies at sea.
That is true too. But he's like any murderer. He's a coward, so he always attacks people younger and smaller than him. He never attacked or got in a fight with anybody bigger than him. So I'd imagine if he's off to sea with all these men, he's not going to be able to kill anybody because he's not going to overpower anyone.
That's true.
But that doesn't not say that he wouldn't try at some point, I suppose. So the trial begins on December 11th, 1874. The prosecution only tried him for the Millen murder. They knew that would be a slam dunk, so to speak. So, and it would be the only guilty they would need to secure Jesse be put away for good, or, probably the hangman's noose.
Hanged, yeah.
The defense leaned hard into the insanity defense. They knew that they probably weren't going to be able to get him off of the charges. They knew, like, this kid obviously did it. They hoped they could keep him from getting a death sentence. Prosecution put forth the argument that he was too cunning and exacting in his actions, like I had said, to be insane. He knew what he was doing was wrong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried to cover it up. Period.
It's true.
Yeah. So a couple months before the trial began, he started seeing a guy by the name of Dr. Tyler, to see if he was indeed insane. He told the doctor he couldn't help it, and that before he would hurt or kill someone, he would get headaches. It would start in one side and go to the other and then go back and forth. And this gave him the urge to whip or kill the young person he had with him. But he was beginning to get confused on the details of what had happened and if he had actually even done the murders because of counseling from his mother, who was, again, in complete denial of her son's guilt, even though he confessed, and pleaded with him to fight for his freedom. She was completely under the assumption that the police had forced him into this confession. They had beat him down and yelled at him to the point where he was so scared that he was confessing to something he didn't do. And then with the Curran murder, they took her and Charles into prison, and she was certain that he was just doing that, saying that he killed her to protect them, which even later says that he was doing it to protect them, but
it was his brother Charles all along.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been. You never know, because when they do an interview with them, Ruth actually comes off. She looks like just a completely horrible person, and for a lot of people she was. But when she talked in public, she was very well spoken, very courteous, very kind. She answered all the questions. She was just sure to tell them as much as possible, my son didn't do it. He's a good boy. But when they talked to Charles, who's supposed to be this upstanding citizen in the community, and everybody knows him, he's a small business owner, he's kind of the one that comes off a little odd. He's like chewing on a toothpick the entire time. He's real short with his answers. He's got a real bad drawl in his voice, which is weird for being from Boston. So could it have been Charles that killed her? That's a possibility. Jesse's known for attacking boys. If, Charles might have wanted to do the same thing to girls.
Yeah.
They actually looked back in their genealogy and saw that there was some shit on their dad's side, Thomas's side of the family, that
cuckoo.
A little cuckoo-ness kind of ran, in the Cocoa Pebbles or Cocoa Puffs. Sorry, Cocoa Pebbles is Flintstones. I'm sorry. Anyway, because of his mother's counseling telling him, fight for your freedom, don't just give up, he decided that during one of their final examinations, when he was asked why he did it, why he killed them, he got upset and recanted his confession, saying he didn't kill either of them. Like, I didn't do any of this shit. Fuck you. Which, all right.
That's just, oh, God almighty.
And it makes everything a little bit more difficult. On November 6th, the doctor gives his diagnosis, this is laughable, but okay. He's pretty much saying that Jesse was insane based on the fact that he said he couldn't help what he was doing, and then progressed to compare all the horrible things that he did to other people that feel like they just have to do things, like people with OCD that feel like they have to wash their hands constantly, or pyromaniacs that feel like they have to set fire to things, or kleptomaniacs that feel like they have to steal things. None of these points to actual insanity, just a form of a mental health issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, this was the 1870s and the science of the mind was still in its infancy. So this was back when if you were mentally retarded, they put you in an insane asylum because
I was going to say, was Bob Hansen his goddamn therapist or something? Like,
hey, watch this.
So he just had to do it.
He barely even heard it.
He just had to do it. Yeah.
Flinging knives. You barely even heard that, didn't you? I'm going to set the barn on fire. The doctor did, however, feel that the fact that Jesse could see the good and bad in others, but not in himself, could make him very dangerous and should probably be locked away from the public for their own safety. So at least there was that. He didn't say, oh, no, he's fine. Just let him go. Somebody will kidnap him eventually, like that Katie girl, and we won't have to deal with him anymore.
Yeah, that guy with the mustache. It was him.
The trial only took 3 days, which is, I guess for 1870s isn't bad. For today, that would be incredibly short. But witnesses were called that said they saw Jesse and Horace together mere hours before the body was found. The doctor that looked over the bodies, the police officer that arrested and took Jesse's confession, even the jail priest that also heard Jesse's confession. They all took the stand. And the whole time, Jesse sat in his chair, a look of boredom on his face, head back, hands laced behind his neck, seemingly without a care in the world. He's just like, just nonchalant, didn't give a fuck.
Sure, he's innocent.
Yeah,
why would
too
he?
Cool for the
He's going to get off scot-free.
Yeah, he's like, well, I told him I did it, but then I told him I didn't do it, so I'm good.
Said I didn't.
I am good.
Anti-confession.
He's like, Mom, everything's fine now. I told him I didn't do it. I'll be home for dinner. Which, he's only 13, 14. That is probably how most 14s would think about it. Be like, I told him I did it, but then I told him I didn't do it, so everything's fine.
And then I said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
he's like, I did it. I'm sorry. And you fucking told my mom, and I told you not to tell my mom. So we're even now. I get to go home. Go play with my pogs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, pogs.
Good old pogs.
Remember,
Alf is back in pog form.
When it became the defense's turn, they recounted all of Jesse's horrible past crimes, including the murder of Katie Curran, because he wasn't on trial for that one. And they did it in as much gruesome detail as possible. The tortures, the beatings, the stabbings, the murders, they talked about all of it. And then they said Jesse couldn't control the urges. He was now and would probably forever be unable to resist the impulse to beat, kill, and mutilate young children. And then he appealed to the court that they needed to create a new law to protect society from people like Jesse. Not death. Just because these people were insane didn't mean that they should die. Which is true. Just because you're crazy or insane doesn't mean you should be put to death, but it doesn't mean that you need to be taken out of society for society's sake.
Yeah.
They just can't help it. Quote, when a person indicted for murder or manslaughter is acquitted by a jury by reason of insanity, the court shall order such a person to be committed to one of the state lunatic hospitals during his natural life, which is actually what happens now, not then, though. They called their own witnesses, his mother Ruth first, who recounted the multitude of childhood illnesses Jesse had. He had epileptic shakes in his head following a brain fever, and these would be super bad, and he'd get super bad headaches. He had insomnia, dizziness, the frequent headaches. Neighbors testified that Jesse liked to hurt animals in the city, and he could often be seen running around while holding the sides of his head as if in great pain. A teacher told a A teacher told of sudden and unprovoked outbursts in school, and when he was to be punished, he would cry out that he wasn't to blame, he couldn't help it. Then, as an obvious misstep, they called some of his early victims to the stand. I think 5 of his torture victims were called up, the last of which being Robert Gould, who still had all the scars on his face from the attack. Instead of solidifying the insanity defense, this just pissed off the jury. The jury saw this, and they went from thinking, oh, he's crazy, to he's a fucking monster, because they're looking at this little kid. The doctors that examined Jesse were next. The main doctor, Dr. Tyler, reiterated his findings that Jesse was insane. But the second doctor that Jesse saw knew enough that said Jesse had known enough that what he was done was wrong because he tried to evade punishment. And then the prosecution's doctor contradicted both of them, saying not only did he know what he was doing was wrong, but he was cunning and manipulative and completely free of mental defect. Like, he's not insane. He's just a fucking murderer.
I was going to say, he's just that other kind of lunatic.
Yeah. He's crazy, not insane. And there's a difference.
Yeah.
It's a really good documentary if you have Netflix, if you ever want to go look at it. Crazy, not insane. It pretty much focuses on the people can do horrible shit and still be completely sane, know what they're doing is wrong. And that's where most people, I think, believe Jesse Pomeroy was. He had a lot of people who were in his defense that said, oh, he didn't do it. If he did do it, he's insane. But obviously he did it. So the jury deliberated for about 5 hours, eventually finding Jesse guilty of premeditated first-degree murder. However, they requested mercy on behalf of the court because of his age, for life imprisonment instead of death. But the only sentence at the time for the verdict was death. So the judge's hands were tied. If they would have gave him second-degree murder, it would have been different. But they gave him first-degree murder, and there was nothing else he could do. So at the sentencing weeks later, in mid-February 1875, the judge handed down the sentence of being hanged by the neck until dead in order he be taken to prison to await execution. The only thing that could save Jesse now was the governor. Today, when someone goes on death row, they can be waiting for several years before they are put to death. I mean, it's because of the appeals process and a bunch of other shit. But you can be sitting on death row for you could actually die on death row without being put to death.
Yeah, hung or lethal injection.
Lethal injection now.
Yeah.
But in the 1800s, you were lucky if you got 1 year before you were put to death. If you were sentenced to execution, they got it fucking done and over with.
Yeah.
Jesse, it was a little different. The Commonwealth had never handed down the death sentence for a 14-year-old before. And the community, the entire state, was torn. There was a letter-writing campaign and daily visits to the governor's office by both sides of the argument commenced. Many came forward calling for the death of the boy Fiend that had terrorized the area of South Boston for the past few years, to do away with the menace, because if he was left in prison to live his life, he would eventually get out either by breakout or by his odd charisma and go on a killing rampage. Kill the boy! The other side said things like, only God can truly judge a person. Only God can condemn someone to death, or we, to hang a young boy before he had the opportunity to fully understand who he is and what his place is in God's kingdom. Should be blah, 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 blah. Just that same religious bullshit. However, there were others who, weren't.
I'm with people on number 2 there.
Well, there were people on...
Only God can judge me.
There were people who weren't delusional.
You judgmental bastard.
Who said, dude, he's 14. We can't hang a kid.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It was no, oh God, and this, that. Dude, he's 14. We can't do that. That if he was 18, sure. Even if 17, maybe. 14, no, we just can't do it. And I completely agree with that. But I wasn't around then. So over the next couple
They
of
probably wouldn't have listened to you.
Probably not.
Like, who's this? Get out of here.
Heathen. So over the next couple of years, there's a lot of back and forth and not knowing exactly what the governor would do. There's an election, so they waited till afterwards to see who would win and what the governor would do with Jesse after that. But eventually, the governor commuted the death sentence to life in prison. But he went a little further than that. Because by his order, Jesse would then spend the next 41 years in solitary confinement.
Jesus.
I mean, that's
one way of definitely making somebody go cuckoo.
If you don't know about solitary confinement, it's essentially 41 years of pure torture. A person can be psychologically changed for the worse, but just a couple days in solitary. There's been so many fucking studies done on solitary confinement about how it's cruel and unusual punishment, that it shouldn't be around. And this motherfucker spent 41 years. Now,
I can just have this mental image of, the good old classic John Travolta meme, Pulp Fiction meme.
He's,
that's just him in a room on his own now.
Now,
41 years.
For most of us, that would be horrible. Jesse Pomeroy is a different character. He didn't mind being alone a lot. He kept himself busy. So over the course of the next 40 of those 41 years, with the exception of, letters from people that are having the same type of issues he's had as a child, looking for advice or companionship. There's a couple people who wrote him, not often, but often enough to where the authorities were looking into it. The only person he ever saw or talked to was his mother, Ruth, who got to visit him, I think, a couple times a month. They had solitary. It was you had the big door that closed in that you couldn't get out, and then a big wooden door past that, so you couldn't talk to anybody out in the hallway or the corridor. I mean, complete isolation. This was where he got the moniker the most friendless man in the world. Which
because he spends 40 years with nobody.
But his mom even got wrangled into his wild escape plots. He actually asked her to smuggle in a file inside a banana because apparently fruit wasn't inspected by the guards. You could walk in with a thing of fruit and give it to the inmate for them to have, and they wouldn't inspect it. So he's like, hey, put a file.
Walks in a fruit basket with a shotgun inside.
They check through his. That's the biggest zucchini I've ever seen in my life. So they're looking through on one of his escape attempts. They check his cell, and they look through his coat and find a letter to his mom saying, "Hey, next time you come up, smuggle a file inside the banana." He gives her this whole explanation of what he's going to do. He was going to use the file to get through the bars on the window and sneak out. He has so many fucking escape attempts. He used spoons, the lid from sardine can that his mom had given him, anything that he could find out in the yard when he got his 1 hour a day of yard time, rusty nails, rocks, anything he could grab. His cell, I keep saying room, his cell is filled with just little trinkets and shit that he's made and worked with that he's using to try to escape. It's really actually quite impressive when you don't think of the fact that how horrible he is. So one of the
ain't no Rita Hayworth in Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
So
he just honestly, there's just tape on the bottom of it. He just let the thing fall down back after he climbed through and it stuck itself. That's there's no plot hole. That's how he did it. Anyway,
I ain't gonna go looking for any plot holes there.
It's an amazing movie. Just enjoy it for what it is. So for his first big escape attempt, he used his spoon given to him that he would have to eat with to dig away at the stones in the wall of his cell, of which 3 he was actually able to remove these stones, and he had covered them back up with some paper. When that was found out, he was moved to a cell with granite walls instead of block, which he would never be able to dig through with a spoon. But he would use any tool he could come up with to cut through cell doors.
Spork.
Literally anything he could get his hands on, he would make a tool out of. He tried to cut through the cell doors. He would dig into the floor of his cell. He'd cut through the bars of the window with anything he could find. Anything he could think of. Over 24 times they caught him trying to escape. I mean...
Yes, I can imagine him walking in and he's... had this image of him standing in the bowl of the toilet, flushing it, trying to get out. It's like, God damn it, Jesse, not again. He's just sitting there spinning.
Oh, God. I don't believe they had toilets. I think they just had a bucket to piss and shit in. But that's fucking amazing. Oh, my God. I didn't think of that. That never once entered my mind. But now it's all I can think of. Especially him older, looking like a really bad Santa Claus without the beard.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Well, he didn't go as far as trying to flush himself. He did, however, blow up his cell trying to escape.
Cool. Nice one.
So,
hey, Mom, bring me in a stick of dynamite hidden inside a baguette there, please. Would it?
What he could, if he hadn't have gone the way of, vicious murder, what he could have became could have been amazing. The way his brain works. So, he had found out that the gas lights in the corridors were powered by a gas line that just happened to run on the outer wall of his cell. The wall of the cell that is fully inside the prison.
Yeah.
It just ran right next to it. So every day, a little at a time, again, he's going to be there for the rest of his life. He's got plenty of time. He's patient. Jesse begins to dig through the mortar of the cell wall between the bricks. And every night, he would conceal his work that he had made with some paste that he had made from soap. So he could just scrape it away and keep going to work. Eventually, he broke through to the other side, right next to the gas line. He then bored a hole, just a small pinhole, into the pipe with a piece of wire that he had. God knows where he got it from. So to let the gas escape into his cell. Then, quickly, with some tubing he had made from newspaper, water, and bread, he channeled the gas to another part of the cell where he had loosened a few blocks. He figured that if he could get enough gas in that area that he had loosened, that he could blow a hole in the wall and run for freedom. Well, he's half right.
He's like a Bostonian MacGyver.
He's like fucking Wile E. Coyote, right? He's got all these awesome ideas, and
his mother's walking in with these giant Acme boxes. Here you go, son.
At some point, he just paints a tunnel on the side of the cell and tries to run through it. So, on a November afternoon, it doesn't say the date, but on a November afternoon in 1887, the east wing of the prison shook from an explosion. The guards opened Jesse's cell door to find him laying unconscious in the corner, his face singed, and his eyebrows and eyelashes burned off.
There's a hole in the wall in the shape of Jesse.
Well, actually,
to look and to see him just running over the hills into the distance.
He had blown a huge piece of the granite ceiling off that was laying in the middle of the cell, partially destroying the floor of the hospital above him. So it did technically work, just in the wrong place. But man, if that would have landed on him,
yeah,
it wouldn't have been
the
a
guy
problem.
walking in after all of his attempts and like, God damn it, Jesse, not again.
Oh, you see his arms poking out from the piece of granite. God. Fuck. So, obviously, unlike his time in the Reformation House, he was the absolute worst prisoner. He never did anything he was told. Guards he was supposed to do work out in the yard. They were kind of lenient on his whole solitary confinement thing for a little bit, where they weren't putting him in general population, but they were getting him out of his cell a little bit more. And they was like, well, you're going to do work on the yard. And he'd be like, I'm not doing any fucking work. It's like, you gotta do work. You gotta do work. It's like, I'm not doing any work. He's like, I never want to work. And he never did. Ever. He never does any fucking work.
What are they going to do to him?
Exactly. Like, I mean, you hang me? Go ahead. That's what I was here for in the first place. Now, there was a rumor that got started that they gave him a kitten for companionship so he wouldn't be so lonely, and that he ended up skinning it alive. Now, Jesse obviously denies these rumors. There's no actual proof of this ever happening. I wouldn't put it past him, but I think that the prison would be out of their minds to give him any type of living creature to play with.
I think they're out of their minds to even give him toilet roll at this stage. Like,
he'd try to break out with it if you did.
Yeah, like, that doesn't surprise me. Like, if he would do that, it's just wouldn't give him anything. He should just stay in a big empty room on his own.
Yeah,
butt naked, nothing, no access to anything. Give him some food and water. Done.
Yeah. But in all this time in solitary, he did take advantage of being alone. He learned everything he could, including Latin, German, and French. He learned how to paint big tunnels on the side of his wall that he could try to run through. He wasn't very good at any of it. He wasn't a very good painter, even though he thought his paintings were amazing. He's like George W. Bush. Can't really paint all that well. Thinks he's really good. He wasn't very good at
George W. Bush can't really think very well. Thinks he's very good.
Well, there you go. He wasn't very good in Latin, German, or French, but, at least he learned something.
Neither am I.
Yeah, me either. He wrote a few books, like his autobiography and a book of poetry, which was actually, both of these books are actually published. He even tried to invent a hollow pencil with a self-sharpening lead, pretty much the idea for the first mechanical pencil, which I thought was very interesting. He never actually got around to I found out he never got around to actually inventing it. He just had the idea for it, but still, again, what could he have become if he
wasn't a lunatic?
Yeah, if he didn't kill people. But in 1917, just a few months after his mother died, Jesse was removed from solitary and allowed to join the general population, where he would revel in the fear on the young inmates' faces when they realized who they were locked up with. He'd just walk up, he's an old man by now, but he'd just walk up to youngsters and be like, "You know who I am?" They say, "No." He goes, "I'm Jesse Pomeroy." And they'd be freaked out because at the time, he was still a boogeyman of South Boston. A few years later, the new inmates coming in had no idea who the fuck Jesse Pomeroy was, and it kind of killed his spirit. He was getting off on knowing people were afraid of him, and now all of a sudden nobody's afraid of him, and it was really a gut punch to him.
Ah, poor Jesse.
Yeah, poor
Jesse.
Him. You fuck. In 1929, actually, he probably didn't fuck. He probably got fucked because he went in prison when he was 14. So there's a good chance he died a virgin.
Yeah.
Just like Isaac Newton.
Necrophiliac.
Jesse Pomeroy, Isaac Newton. 2 peas in a pod.
Isaac got fucked by that lightning bolt, though.
I think you're thinking of Ben Franklin.
Oh, that's the guy.
And that's a myth. That never actually happened.
Yeah.
Mythbusters busted that a long time ago. No, he got fucked by that apple.
Oh, the apple, that's the one.
You know he was doing shit with that apple.
Yeah. I took it to the tree. You see, it was a tree taking retaliation. It's like, oh, that's a very interesting little hole in that tree about waist height. Ooh.
Probably made the apple into a bong.
Look, that's what you're into.
Yep. So
I don't like apples, so
I love apples. In 1929, at the age of 71, Jesse was taken to the Bridgewater Prison Farm for better medical care. It was his first and only automobile ride. His inexperience with the vehicle led him to almost knocking himself out by hitting his head hard on the door opening when his foot missed the running board while getting in. It's like he knocked his hat to the ground. It's just imagine oh fuck, because he had no idea what he was doing. But I mean, by the time he gets out and he's riding around Boston, going to this other place, looking out the window, the world has completely changed from 1870. From the 1870s to almost 1930. There was, I mean, an entire world war had happened while he was in there. And everything had changed. Nothing was so. It says that he looked just kind of uninterested because that wasn't the world he knew. So he wasn't missing out on anything, he didn't feel like, which I guess is one way to look at it. So just 2 years later, September 29th, 1932, 2 months shy of his 73rd birthday, Jesse H. Pomeroy died of coronary heart disease, his ashes scattered to the winds.
Good.
Good for us. Now, why do I not recognize Jesse as a serial killer? Well, for one, he only killed 2 people. Most definitions say a serial killer has to have at least 3 victims. Some say 4. There are some that say 2, but I don't, God knows how many serial...
I thought it was 3.
Yeah, how many serial killers in the world would they be if you only had to kill 2 people to become a serial killer? I mean, come on. Make it difficult, people. And even though he did get a sense of gratification from these kills, be it psychological or thrill-seeking or bloodlust, the 2 victims had no similarities other than their age. And even then, they weren't close enough in age to really make the leap. If Jesse had been in his 20s or his 30s, then you could say, sure, killer of young kids, because of the age difference between him and them. But Katie was only a couple years younger than him. Horace was a third his age. There's a big difference between a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old when you yourself are 12 or 13. One was a girl.
Massive difference.
Yeah, one's a girl. The other was a boy. One came into his shop. The other he had to go find and take for a walk for God knows how long to find a private spot. Yes, they were both killed with a knife with a slit to the throat. Yes, he then stabbed at their torsos and genitals. But with the small amount of time between the murders and the rage that overtook him, I would say that he was closer to a spree killer than a serial killer. Now, would he have become a serial killer if not stopped? Of course.
Yeah, 100% he would have. Yeah. He was about 2 days shy of becoming one.
Within less than a week, he would have become a serial killer. It was no doubt. And then, you'd be completely right to say that. But I guess if we're going to call him anything, we can call him a pre-serial killer or almost serial killer, a killer stopped before he became serial. The killer previous known as serial. Give him give him a symbol like a bite mark out of his cheek or something. I don't know, but I'm sure plenty.
It's like no, it'd be like the apple symbol with the bite, but it's an ass instead of the apple.
That's the T-shirt.
That's it. We're gonna have to make that now.
That's the T-shirt. Fucking Pomeroy. Pomeroy babysitting service, and it's just an ass with a bite taken out of it. Fucking. Oh fuck! So I'm sure plenty of people out there disagree with me. This whole thing. That's fine. I also don't see Ed Gein as a serial killer for the same.
Being honest, my whole thing with it is purely a numbers. Thing where he would have 100% turned into one. He wasn't one, and there's no definitive thing whether or not he actually killed. The girl. What was her name again? Sorry, I
Katie.
have it up here.
Katie Curran.
Katie Curran. Yeah, there's no definitive thing there where. Like, that could have been somebody else who then was opportunistic and where they put the body and all that stuff.
It's a possibility.
It could have been the mustache.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could have been the mustache.
For all we know, so that's the thing. But from sheer numbers alone, no.
Yeah.
But he was escalating towards that at an extremely rapid rate.
He'd have been there without a doubt. He would have.
Like, he's extremely guilty of grievous body harm and all that. So and assaults in numerous ways and fashions and all that. But Yeah. He was one shy, I'd say, of.
Isn't that how it is though? You're just one shy.
Yeah. Always.
It's the same thing with Ed Gein. People say that he's a deranged serial killer, but he killed maybe 2 people. One definitely, maybe a second one, but he was a grave robber, is what he was. And Jesse Pomeroy was a boy torturer.
Yeah.
He murdered people, but serial killer, I don't think so. I also don't think Batman's a superhero because but whatever.
He's not though. He's
not.
Super detective.
Yeah. Technically, I saw something. Technically, the Flash is the only super in the Justice League person with superpowers, because
one of them's a god, one of them's an alien.
Well, Superman's
2 of them are god.
Superman's an alien.
Yeah.
Martian Manhunter's an alien. Wonder Woman is Amazonian. She's not a human with powers. That's just who they are. That's Green Lantern has a ring. Cyborg is a literal cyborg. The Flash is the only human with a power. In at least the original, the main Justice League. You get into all the other, other ones. There's other superpowers. There's metahumans.
So fishy guy is a god, and
yeah,
I can't remember half the other ones that are in it.
So
I was going to say, is it not similar enough with Marvel?
Yeah, Iron Man has
Spider-Man has superpowers.
Spider-Man has
Iron
superpowers.
Iron Man's rich.
He's just
Captain
like
America
Batman. He's just rich.
Is kind of genetically modified thing going on.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd say Captain America has superpowers or not, because it's the super serum. But if you're going to say the super serum doesn't give superpowers, then you can't really say that the spider bite. So I would venture to say that Captain America has superpowers of sort, I guess.
I think Jesse had superpowers of sorts.
And he was able to make people think he was a different person by putting his finger over his lip.
Yeah, that's all the Superman did.
Pretty much.
Put on some glasses.
And a suit.
Yeah, well, allegedly he could change his voice and change his eye color and all this sort of load of shit.
I guess that depends on how deep in the lore you get. But
yeah, well, do you see that thing in one of the movies? I can't remember which one it is, where Lois kind of cops on. She draws on the newspaper over his picture, and she's standing there in front of her, and it's a picture of Superman in the newspaper, and Clark is in front of her, and she draws glasses on and draws his hat on Superman. She's looking at him. She's like, "It's you," and I got to prove it. And she jumps out a window, hoping that he'll fly down and save her. So he runs down super fast and starts doing this super breath to slow her descent, and pops out the fucking the awning down the bottom. So she lands in the awning and falls out, and then he runs back up super fast again and goes out to the window. He's like, "Lois, what did you do that for?"
That's pretty smart. That's pretty smart. It's like, why does it smell like hot dogs? We had hot dogs today. Just super breath. It's just super hot dog breath. All right. Do you have any pop culture? I know there's some pop culture references.
There's a couple. I just saw that there's a couple of references in books and stuff like that. He was also apparently referenced in a video game, Payback 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just as a character called Jesse. That's pretty much the extent of it. Like I said, there's a couple of books and stuff like that, but I didn't see too much.
Yeah.
That was really of note that I could find offhand real quick.
Okay.
Well, Payback 2.
Payback 2.
This time it's personal.
Payback 2, Electric Boogaloo. This time it's personal.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, again, thanks to our patrons, Inquisitor Willow Quinn Fowler, Executioner Jagabani, and our torture noob, MX Sinister 26. Thank you so much for being members of our community.
And anybody who has subscribed in the meantime, seeing as we are recording this one early. Yeah,
we recorded both episodes one after the other, so this won't be coming out for a little while.
Much to the complaint of my bladder.
If you are a Patreon subscriber, you got this pretty early. But that's all we really got. Follow us Instagram, other social medias, TorturePod, @TorturePod. Email us, torturepod@gmail.com. If there's anything you want us to cover, any fan art, you can go ahead and send our way. Rate, review on Apple, follow, subscribe, whatever service you listen to. Head over to our YouTube page. You could kind of watch, I guess, our podcast if you want. It's literally just the image of the icon for this episode with some WAV file behind it. It's nothing, big,
Yeah,
but if
you
that's how
only
you
get-
like, that's how you like to get
You only
podcasts.
get this if you subscribe.
Yeah.
That's
If you
it.
want to see our
Subscribe to
faces,
the
go
pod-
subscribe to Patreon, or you can see the little
Patreon.
excerpt that I put up. I'm not sure what I will put up from this one, but it'll be something. You can donate to the show on our link tree, which is on our socials, or buymeacoffee.com/torturepod. And of course, patreon.com/torturepod also helps. And if you'd rather just walk around with some torture merch on redbubble.com/people/torturepod, go get yourself a onesie.
I can confirm also that some of it does ship from Europe. As I've said, I was afraid it would all ship from the States.
Yeah.
And that was why, depending on what you order, the post and packaging can change. But it was because part of mine decided to ship from the United States.
Yeah.
The rest of it's all shipped from Europe. So
Well, I think if you order in the U.S., you'll probably get most of your stuff shipped to you from the U.S. If you order outside the U.S., you might have to wait for things to kind of come from all over the place. But that's
so
just,
that's what I was meant to clarify. Yeah,
Yeah.
So if you are ordering from Europe,
yeah,
it's not all going to come from the US.
or China or Africa or Australia or wherever you're from.
Yeah,
Sure.
anywhere they want.
Yeah. Hint for our next episode: when the Brazilians find something they like, boy, do they stick with it,
Nice.
isn't it?
I got another little chunk of wisdom for
Yes,
you today
Dan.
as well.
What is your
Seems
word
to
of
have the second
wisdom?
one.
Yeah.
Never play leapfrog with a porcupine.
That's right up there with never stick anything larger than your elbow in your ear. That's very good. Oh, fuck. All right. Well, with that, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Watch out for your kids, and we'll see you.
Adios.